Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class, I have been creating a series of video presentations based on the textbook that will be used for this class in the fall 2019 semester. That textbook being, as you can see on your screen here, Pro ASP.NET MVC 5, an A-Press text from Mr. Adam Freeman. I've been making my way through the book, got through the first 12 chapters. Chapter 13 was a major disappointment for me. For some reason, the system is not recognizing my Microsoft password, so I cannot go on and try to deploy this using Microsoft Azure, which is what I wanted to do. Now, one thing I was going to check on, and I forgot to do this, I'm just going to put in here deploying an ASP.NET MVC 5 application. Let's see what I get. How to deploy it to IIS or Azure. Probably watch this. I've watched several things from Mr. Tim Corey. He's very, very, very good. How to upload on shared processing. GoDaddy. How to publish, deploy an MVC on Azure server farm now. Could try AWS. I'm not sure about that. Done virtually nothing with AWS. The other one that I have looked at, so I'm going to take this and open it in a new tab, is App Harbor. All right. Notice this is 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Let's see, how long was this? I may have looked at this one already. I, honest to goodness, don't remember. Some of these are quite old. 6 years ago. I don't think that's going to help me very much. Well, deploying this. Again, that's 6 years ago. I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at these two, and I think I've looked at both of them before. Deploying an application on App Harbor is not difficult. Deploying an let me rephrase. Deploying an ASP.NET application on App Harbor does not appear to be difficult. Deploying an MVC5 application with a database is something I have not successfully done. So I'll come back to that at a later time. Point is, I'm making a long story or a short story long. For now, I'm skipping Chapter 13 and I'm jumping into Chapter 14, which is what I consider to be the third part of the book. In Chapter 14, which is a very short chapter, overview of MVC projects, then notice we'll have 2 chapters on routing in 15 and 16. Then we'll get into controllers and actions in 17, filters in 18, controller extensibility in 19, views in 20, helper methods in 21, templated helper methods in 22, URL and AJAX helper methods in 23, model binding in 24, model validation in 25, bundles in 26, and web API and SPAs or single page apps in 27. The point is this. What chapters 13 through 27 do, in my humble opinion, is they go over a lot of the stuff that was brought up in our project that we did as a class. All right? So I'm jumping into Chapter 14, which, as the author says here, is an overview of MVC projects. All right? So this chapter gives an overview of the structure and nature of an ASP.NET MVC app, including the default project structure and naming conventions, some of which are optional, some of which are hard-coded and allow to work more seamlessly with MVC. All right. It says with your Visual Studio 2013, well, we're 2019, and MVC 5, Microsoft has updated the templates and the scaffolding, as it is known, to blur the boundaries between different kinds of projects and to provide a wider range of templates and code configurations. I'd agree with that. When you first create a new MVC project, you have 2 basic starting points. No, much more than that, because we're using 2019. It says the names are a little misleading because you can add basic folders, etc. All right. So I'm not going to show you this, but what I am going to show you is this. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to start up a new project. I've kind of gone through this quickly before, but I want everyone to please watch and see this. I'm going to click Create a New Project. This is markedly different, all right, than the way we did things previously. Okay, I don't want to do anything core. What I want to do is go down about 10 or 12. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11, down about 11, and I want 12. ASP.NET Windows Application.NET format. Now that I've selected it several times, I can click here and click Next, or I can click up here because I've already chosen it and click Next. All right. So we are asked then what our project name will be. This is virtually identical to what we've done in the past. So that stuff itself is not new. But what I want you to see is I'm going to put in here dummy project. First of all, in here, 2 things. This is the name of your project. This is the name of your solution. They do not have to be the same name. In fact, if your solution will contain more than one project, they should not be the same name. So I'm going to keep this as dummy project, but I'm going to call this one dummy solution. Second thing is, don't put any blank spaces or funky characters in here. If you want to run words together, do it the way I've done it. It's just the easiest way. I'd suggest saving everything to your desktop, all right, and not clicking anything else. All right. So after you've done that, click Create. Now, this looks semi-familiar to the way we've done things before. All right. And what I'm saying here is, what do we want to do next? Well, in our book, basically the author has us choose empty here and then click MVC for virtually everything that we do in here. All right, for virtually all of our projects. What that does is it creates an empty project, but it puts a lot of the MVC folders that you need in there. All right. Now, the other one you might choose is MVC. Notice once we choose MVC, that's automatically checked. That not only does that give you the same folders that we talked about with an empty project, but it actually gives you more. And a lot of the stuff is built in. You can run this project. You cannot run this one out of the box. All right? Okay, so let's see. There's a tip here in the book. Checking my time. There is a tip here in the book. This is pretty much what I just went over with you. On the top of page 348. Visual Studio assembles a project called or created with the MVC template using NuGet packages. We've been working with NuGet from almost day one. All right. So it says whichever template you do is going to have this stuff in it. So let's take a look. again, we will just choose the empty and add MVC, all right, and click Create. On page 348 and 349, they discuss what's created in here. Okay? So, notice we have first, and again, I can't really blow this thing up, but what I can do is this. I don't know if this will help or not, but this is what I'm doing. Taking a snapshot here of the Solution Explorer. Put that up. I'm going to make this bigger. All right. So what do we have here? Okay. First of all, notice one thing. Remember, I called my solution dummy solution, and I called my project dummy project. If I don't name them differently, then the solution and the project will have the same name. That's probably okay if you're certain that your solution will always have only one project in it. When we do the sports store project as a class, it will have 3 different projects in it. So of course our solution name will be different than the name of the projects. All right, so the first thing you see in here is app data. Okay, that's the folder rather, where you put data such as XML files or databases. Okay. After that, we've got App Start. App Start holds core configuration settings for the project. It'll have things like your route config file, etc. All right. Then you've got controllers. As you'd guess, in a controllers folder, it's where you put your controller classes. By convention, controllers are a word followed by the word controller. So if I wanted to make a home controller, it would be capital H, lowercase o-m-e, capital C, lowercase o-n-t-r-o-l-l-e-r, no plural. Under models, it's where we put our view model and our domain model classes. All right. You can define these anywhere, but basically by convention you put them there. I look at it, that's where you put your data store information. Usually a database, but doesn't necessarily have to be. All right. Then we get our views. All right. That's the directory that holds the layouts and the views. Okay. And it contains partial views as well. Now, I'm going to stop right here. Why? I'm not done with the chapter yet, even though it's pretty darn close. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to start up another session of Visual Studio. All right, again, I'm going to choose Create a New Project. Again, I'm going to choose ASP, okay, and I'm going to call this Dummy Project 2, and I'm going to call this Dummy Solution 2. All right. Don't need that slash. That's why it's getting the error. All right. Click Create. Now I'm going to change and choose MVC and click Create. I want you to be able to see side by side the differences between this, which is an ASP.NET project, all right, and this, which is an ASP.NET project, but I'm going to open up a bunch of this stuff here. Probably cannot open up all of it and have you still be able to see it. In fact, I would put money on it that that's the case. Wow, that's really close. Let's close that one. In fact, let's close that one. And let's open back up this. That looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to print screen this, open up another. I do this a lot. You know, everybody's got their own way of doing things. We all know that. All right, but I'm showing you my way of doing things, and I'm not saying, hey, this is my way of doing things, you should do them this way. So far from it. All right. What I want to do is this. I want to bring this one back up. Now I want to bring up this so you can see both of these. All right, this one will be a bit smaller. Okay, now notice connected services, properties, references, those are the same. App data. Notice now under app start, previously I think all we had was a route config. In fact, I don't even know what was in there. Let me go back and double check. A route config, which if we look at it, 25 lines long, does not have very much stuff in it. Now we've got a route config, which is pretty much the same as that route config, a filter config, we're going to talk about filters later, and a bundle config, all right, where you can bundle together CSS files and or JavaScript files. Then notice we've got a content folder here we don't even have here. The content folder is where you put static content, your CSS files. If you wanted to add images, we would add an image folder here, etc. The controller, the only difference between these is now we have a home controller. All right, fonts, okay. In the fonts folder, there's a few Glyphicon files basically that are put in there. I'm not going to go into that any more than that. Models, empty just like before. Scripts we don't have here. So scripts is the directory that's intended to hold JavaScript files and JavaScript library files like jQuery files. All right. Views in here in this first one, I'm getting real close on my time. Views has what? A web config and not another darn thing. But we look at the second one and we look at, whoops, come on. We look at views in here. So I'm going to close this stuff as I get through it. We've got a home folder with an about, a contact, and an index. We also have a shared with a layout and an error file. And we've got a view start file here. All right, so we've got a lot more information, for lack of better verbiage. Okay. So in the views folder, again, we hold the views and the partial views, typically grouped together in folders named after their associated controller. In the view shared, we hold layouts and views which are not specific to any controller. In the views web.config, this contains configuration information required to make the views work. It's not the global one. So this web config is different than this one. 99 times out of 100, when you're asked to change the web config file, it's this global one that's down here. All right, there's a global.asax file in both of these. All right, and as it's, it is the global ASP.NET application class. It's the place to register routing configurations as well as setup type of information. That's pretty much what I want to say about this. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to jump over here to right here and go down to where the author is going to talk about understanding MVC conventions. We'll pick it up there in the next lecture. See you then.